The Unbearable Lightness of Being by Milan Kundera. I think that's how you pronounce it, perhaps. But if you read the back here, the back cover, to imagine, to dream about things that have not happened is among mankind's deepest needs. I mean, that alone will get you to want to read this. The genre of The Lightness of Being is fiction, philosophical fiction, existential fiction. I think that's my favorite genre of fiction. I was never really a fiction person, but Stephen Pressfield, the author of The War of Art, I once reached out to him and asked him what he recommended. And he mentioned The Moviegoer, which I have right here. And it's the first of this genre that I have really read. And to me, it's less about the story, although the stories are often good, and more about thinking, the thinking. It gets you to think, and it presents philosophy in a very, in a fiction way. This book was published in 1984. Here's the book jacket, what it says. Quote, a work of large scale and complexity, political and philosophical, erotic and spiritual, funny and profound. There is no wiser observer now writing of the multifarious relations of men and women. End quote. Wall Street Journal. Let's read the book summary. A young woman is in love with a successful surgeon. A man torn between his love for her and his womanizing. His mistress, a free-spirited artist, lives her life as a series of betrayals, while her lover, earnest, faithful, and good, stands to lose everything because of his noble qualities. In a world where the lives are shaped by choices and events, and everything occurs but once, existence seems to lose its substance, its weight. Hence, we feel the unbearable lightness of being. A major achievement from one of the world's truly great writers, Milan Kundera's magnificent novel of passion and politics, infidelity and ideas, encompasses the extremes of comedy and tragedy, illuminating all aspects of human existence. The cover of The Unbearable Lightness of Being is you have this like floating bowler's hat, which the hat is a symbol of one of the characters in the book. And it shows kind of the lightness, right? And in the background, we have a picture of Prague. The book takes place in the Czech Republic, under like Russian rule, communist rule. Something I love about philosophical fiction is you get these great quotes in the book. And I checked this book out from the library, but I started reading it. I'm like, oh, I want to highlight that and that and that. So I just eventually just bought it. So here, let's see if we can read some of these highlights. Here's a good one. Love is the longing for the half of ourselves we have lost. Ooh, nice. Here's one that is certainly true in our society today, right? That the first thing that struck him, although he had never given people cause to doubt his integrity, they were ready to bet on his dishonesty rather than on his virtue. Ooh, here's an interesting one. The criminal regimes were made not by criminals, but by enthusiasts convinced they had discovered the only road to paradise. They defended that road so valiantly that they were forced to execute many people. Later it became clear that there was no paradise, that the enthusiasts were therefore murderers. Communism. I have two takeaways from this book. The first is thinking about lightness and heaviness. A life of heaviness is one with a lot of responsibilities for oneself and others. So as a result of all this responsibility, life is like way down and there's this burden. The life of lightness, on the other hand, is one with fewer responsibilities. So you can, go about very light, but the problem is with a life of lightness that it often lacks purpose. So then life becomes very burdensome and awful because there's no meaning behind it. Either way, life is a burden. That's the summary. Life is a burden no matter how you live it, lightness or heaviness. The second takeaway is how grateful I am to be living in the United States, especially post-Cold War. I think myself, people my age and younger, we don't truly understand how terrible communism was in the 20th century. I think we hear about it, we learn about it, but I don't know if we've felt it. And in this book, these characters are living under the threat of communism, the oppression of communism, and to be stripped of one's freedom, to always have to be worrying about what you say, who you interact with, what you write, how everything's twisted and turned. It's just like, it's not a free life, you know? And you can't dream when you're not free. And I think we really don't reflect on that enough. Something that's brought up in here too is like people that lack purpose, they'll attach themselves to anything that kind of sounds good. And if you don't go inside yourself, you're really susceptible to words and things that other people do, or the trends, what other people are doing. So they talk about like marches in here, and people want to believe that they're doing the right thing. And oftentimes fear is disguised as compassion. So they talk about these grand marches in here and how they're really not marching for any like theory or principles. It's more so the images that they're into, and they'll march for anything if they're just along with other people in a crowd. And that can certainly be pretty dangerous, right? So those are two big things that I took away from this book. This idea of lightness and heaviness, and having to choose a life of responsibility or fewer responsibilities. And then second is like freedom. Be grateful to be free and to be able to dream and go out there to work for your dream.